Imagine for a second that you were an NBA head coach. And imagine that you led your team to the best record in the league. And not only that, but you were awarded #1 head coach of the year. Chances are, if this was you, you'd probably expect some sort of contract extension. You'd assume that you'd have some financial security, job security. You're in good hands. Unfortunately, this was not the case this past week for former Raptors head coach Dwayne Casey, who was fired from the team for failing to advance past the Cavaliers for a second straight season. And what bothers me was not the fact that he was let go. That was tough. But what was more difficult to understand, not a single person that was discussing this idea had a problem with the firing. Everybody was okay with it. It makes perfect sense. You have a guy who led his team to the #1 record in the league, in the Eastern Conference. You had a guy who was named head coach of the year. This is the guy that we need to fire. This is the guy that we're saying to ourselves is the problem. And nobody's questioning it. Everybody else is falling in line. It makes perfect sense. They can't get past the Cavs. They can't get past LeBron. This is the problem. Boys, we live in a world today where the attitude is, what have you done for me lately? And if it hasn't been good, if it hasn't been productive, we forget about everything that's led up to that moment, and we become numb to the process in which we got from point A to point B. And we only care about what's the latest thing that you've done for me. And if it's not up to par, you're out. Now, of course, as always, there's a lot of different ideas about why, and we can spend a lot of time discussing a lot of different thoughts. I want to focus on one for today, and that is, we live in a world where we are instantly gratified all the time. And while sometimes it's convenient and it's nice, I want to pose that perhaps it could be doing us more harm than good. Amazon. We started out that if we wanted to avoid going to a retail store, Amazon did us the favor. They would deliver us whatever it was that we wanted straight to our doors. Great. But that wasn't enough. Then we needed Amazon Prime, because I couldn't wait. God forbid I should wait more than 2 or 3 days for something to come. I want it to come the next day. Then it got even crazier. Now we have Amazon Now, or whatever it's called. Instacart. I just learned about Instacart this past Shabbat. Somebody will go to the supermarket on your behalf, and within 1 hour will give you whatever it is that you want in life from the supermarket. It used to be that when you bought tickets to a sports game, you'd actually have to go to the stadium, go to will call, and pick up the tickets yourself. Now with all of these websites, they send you the email, you scan it in at the front. Shabbat Shalom, I'll speak to you, I'm in the stadium. When I used to have to do a report when I was your age, there was no such thing as Google. We had such a thing called encyclopedia. Anybody ever heard of encyclopedia? Yeah? Great. We used to have to look up all of the information that we wanted by title, and we had to actually read for ourselves everything that was in the encyclopedia to know how to write up the report. But today we're losing it, boys. because there are so many convenient ways to make my life easier. And it's nice. But what happens when it makes me numb to the process? What happens when it loses meaning and value in whatever it is that I'm doing? I want to share a story. When my mother was remarrying to my current stepfather, he came over one Shabbat, and I wasn't the kindest to my mother, fitting for the day after Mother's Day, and I was a very, very tough food critic. I still am till today, but I eased up a little bit. Hazita, I gave her a rough years. And I used to say, Ma, this is a little bit overcooked, this is undercooked, this could have used more salt, this could have used more pepper. So finally, at the time, my future stepfather, he tells me, if you think you have all the answers, you go cook dinner. Next week, Shabbat, if you can cook Friday night dinner, I'll give you $100. $100? Hadid, I'm in. Anything for money. So I get home from school the next Friday, preparing for Shabbat Friday night meal. And everything is already laid out for me. My mother went so crazy, she prepared everything for me. I just had to actually do the work. Like, this is going to be a joke. Everything's already here. I'm going to be done in 20 minutes. And I'll speak to you and we're going to have gorgeous Shabbat meal. $100 in my pocket. I start to get to work. First we start working on the chicken. I don't know if you ever made cornflake crumb chicken before. It's a process.
I never made that.
You got to take the chicken. You got to dip it in the egg. Then you got to roll it around in the cornflakes. Then you got to put it. And one by one. And one by one. Then I start taking the lahmajin meat and I'm putting it on the mazor dough, right? And so on and so forth. I continued the meal to the point where when I was done, 2 hours later, my back was killing me. And I finally appreciated what it was for my mother to put Friday night food on the dinner table. And you know what happened that night? Oh, I ate Shabbat food, and I didn't leave the table for a single second because I worked damn hard to put that food on the table. There was no chance I was going to get up after 20 minutes. Not up in here. Because when you go through something, when you physically put in the work, it makes you appreciate it and it makes you enjoy the fruits of your labor. It's not anything you can get by clicking on Instacart or Amazon Prime. And it's not anything that you can get with any of the conveniences that life has to offer us today in this technology age that we live in. So here's the ask, boys. Because God put us on this earth to connect to the world around us, for us to appreciate and to understand why it is that we're here and how it is that we need to be doing it. But if all we do is look for shortcuts in life because it's the easy, convenient thing, one may wonder, why am I even here to begin with? Everybody else and their mother is doing everything for me. I do nothing myself. Why are you here? How is this meaningful and how do I get to enjoy what life has to offer me? So here is the ask. I'm not saying that Amazon and Instacart and eBay and all of these wonderful technology innovations are bad for us. But with everything in life, there needs to be a balance. And so who in this room is going to make life easier and when necessary, use some of these technologies, but at the same time, not forget who they are and how important they are to the process, that they need to do the work? Or who's just going through life allowing for everybody to do everything for them on their behalf? Because if you're that person, you may just be in the Dwayne Casey culture, where the guy had the #1 record in the Eastern Conference and he was named head coach of the year, but somehow, because God forbid we should wait for anything, this is not the answer. Move on next. use technology, use it wisely, but don't let it overcome you. Don't let it do everything for you on your behalf. Sometimes we have to work hard in life, and the harder we work, the more enjoyable and the more meaningful life becomes. Shabbat shalom.